Mesothelioma is often thought of as a man's disease, and that makes sense. The majority of cases have been diagnosed in men who worked in industrial jobs or who served in the military. But women get mesothelioma too, and they face unique risks that men don't. From using contaminated talc products to experiencing secondary exposure from family members' work clothes to the specific occupations where women typically worked, there are multiple pathways through which women have been exposed to asbestos. I'm Terry Oppenheimer. I've been writing about mesothelioma and asbestos for the website mesothelioma.net for over a decade. And when it comes to asbestos-related diseases, I think it's critical that women understand the risks. Let's start with the numbers. About 80% of mesothelioma cases occur in men, but that means 20% occur in women. Roughly 600 to 800 women are diagnosed each year in the United States. And when it comes to peritoneal mesothelioma, specifically, women actually make up a higher percentage of cases that are diagnosed. So where are women being exposed? The source that's been most publicized in recent years is cosmetic talc found in baby powder and body powder products. Millions of women have used these products daily for decades, never knowing they could be contaminated with a carcinogen. They applied it after every shower or bath, or used it for feminine hygiene, or applied it to their children, or did all three. This repeated intimate exposure has been linked to thousands of women being diagnosed with mesothelioma and ovarian cancer too. What makes things especially upsetting is the fact that these products were specifically described as being pure and gentle, and specifically marketed to women. Advertising depicted mothers and babies, cleanliness and care, femininity, safety, and trust. Women had no reason at all to suspect that it was dangerous. The second major source of asbestos exposure is secondary take-home exposure, and it has been a particularly problem for women who have lived with someone, like a husband or father or son, who worked with asbestos. The worker comes home with fibers on their clothing, in their hair, on their skin. The women who handle that clothing, whether shaking it out in laundry rooms and washing it, or simply sharing living space and having it embedded in the furniture and carpeting in their home, they end up inhaling deadly asbestos fibers. And over years and decades, that exposure accumulates. We have seen countless cases of women married to shipyard workers, construction workers, insulators, and industrial workers who developed mesothelioma despite never having worked with asbestos themselves. In many cases, the women are daughters or widows who already suffered the loss of their fathers or husbands from asbestos diseases, only to develop the same disease themselves. The third source, it's occupational exposure in seemingly safe settings where women were more likely to work. I'm talking about teachers and school staff, secretaries, librarians, and nurses. They were all exposed in structures built with asbestos-containing ceiling tiles, floor tiles, and insulation. And much of the equipment and supplies those buildings contained were contaminated too. When these materials deteriorated or were disturbed during renovations, everyone in the building was exposed. Now, I want to just take a moment here and remind everyone, if you're finding this information helpful, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. It really helps us get our videos seen by as many people as possible. And if there's a topic you'd like to see covered or a question you'd like answered in a future video, let me know in the comments section below. Also, make sure you watch until the end of this video because that's where I'll tell you exactly how to access help and resources if you or someone you love has been diagnosed with mesothelioma. Women who worked in textile mills, they were exposed to asbestos in the fabrics and manufacturing processes. Hairdressers, they were exposed through talc in some styling products and through asbestos insulation that was used in hair dryers. Women in clerical and administrative roles in shipyards, factories, and construction companies, they were exposed even though they weren't doing the actual labor with the product. They were just in the buildings where the dust was constantly circulated. You also have to remember environmental exposure, which affects both men and women, but often affects women more. People who've lived near a shipyard, asbestos mine, or manufacturing facility were exposed simply by living in the community nearby. And women who spent more time at home were often more heavily exposed than men who left for work each day. The symptoms of mesothelioma in women, they're the same as in men. Persistent shortness of breath, chronic cough, chest pain if it's pleural mesothelioma, and abdominal pain, bloating, and swelling if it's peritoneal mesothelioma. But because doctors aren't expecting mesothelioma in women, you may need to be more assertive about getting proper testing. Here's what women need to know about risk. If you used talc-based baby powder or body powder regularly, particularly for feminine hygiene, you are unfortunately at elevated risk. If you lived with someone who worked with asbestos, especially if you handled their work clothes, you're at risk of mesothelioma from secondary exposure. If you worked in schools, hospitals, textile mills, or other occupations during decades when asbestos was common, or in buildings that were built during those years, you're at risk of occupational exposure. There are unique aspects of mesothelioma in women. Women are more likely than men to develop peritoneal mesothelioma compared to pleural. This is particularly true for younger women. Researchers believe this may be related to talc use in genital areas, but the exact mechanism isn't fully understood. And it's important to note that women face unique challenges in getting diagnosed. Because mesothelioma is thought of as a man's disease, doctors generally don't consider it as a possibility in women. And this is especially true for younger women. A woman in her 30s or 40s with abdominal pain and bloating is much more likely to be evaluated for fibroids, ovarian cysts, or endometriosis than mesothelioma. And this significantly delays diagnosis and getting the right treatment. Women aren't safe from mesothelioma. Between contaminated talc products, secondary exposure from family members' work clothes, and direct occupational exposure, millions of women have been exposed to asbestos, and hundreds are diagnosed each year. They all deserve justice. When mesothelioma is caused by secondary exposure, proving the link to their father's, husband's, or son's workplaces for legal purposes can be more challenging than is true of straightforward occupational exposure. That's because they didn't work at the contaminated job site themselves. And women who developed mesothelioma from talc products, they also face different legal issues than those with occupational exposure. Their cases involve product liability claims against manufacturers rather than workplace exposure cases. The defendants are different, and so is the litigation strategy. That doesn't mean that winning the case is impossible, but it does make it even more important that you work with attorneys with specific experience in cases of asbestos exposure. If you're a woman with symptoms suggestive of mesothelioma, tell your doctor about any exposure history. Do not accept being dismissed. Your concerns require proper medical investigation. Too many women's mesothelioma cases are caught when the disease is very advanced because doctors aren't looking for it. You need to be your own advocate. To learn more, visit mesothelioma.net and fill out our form for a free information packet. Or you can speak directly to one of our compassionate patient advocates by calling 1-800-692-8608 or use the live chat feature on the website. As for me, remember to post questions below. I'll see you next time.